Yeah, hello, hello. It's just me and the baby and our guest backstage. I had to trade Ed in. He's MIA, so I figured I'd give him a little break tonight. So tonight we have a guest from Robert Land Academy. It's Nicholas Thompson, and of course nobody's here, so I got to cheers with the baby. There you go, baby. Don't bite the beer. And then it should be an interesting time. Probably some of you are happy that we don't have the intro going on, but it's long. Some complain, some say it's short. I think it's fine, but hey, whatever. And I'm gonna set some TDS off with this one tonight. Uh, so I don't know what's going on. Hold on a second. Ed's saying he can't get in. Why can't you get in, Ed? What's going on? I don't know. You're locked out? Oh my God. Do I have to send you a link? Here, I'll send you a link. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I have to send Ed a link here. Somebody locked him out. That's it. He's finished. All right, Ed. I sent you a link. Maybe not enough bandwidth, but here, I sent you a link if that's your problem. Or is it you just going in and you're it's always Ed, Hisham. It's always Ed that brings me on. But tonight, I'm going to try to bring him on, but I probably won't bring him on because, these countries that don't have great bandwidth, some of them are still in the dark ages. So be thankful you're in Canada, at least for that much, not the communist part of it all. But who cares? Let's go. Ed, see if it works. If you can get in, then cool. If not, oh well. I guess I'll have to do it tonight. And this will be great because I'm going to go off about everything. And fair warning, everybody, it might be like a 5-hour show or something. I might, since Ed's not here to bully me off the screen and throw me backstage and everything. Just kidding. He doesn't do that stuff. He's a really good guy. Let's see. Anything yet? Anything yet, Ed? Cheers, everyone. Cheers. It's the lounge. Grab yourself a drink. Sit back. This is going to be a little bit different of a setup tonight. Maybe a little boring because I'm just doing it. There's no Ed. It's just not the same. Oh, some profanity. Just some. Not too much. I won't get thrown backstage for that one either. So let's see what happens here. And apparently, if you're watching, people are not seeing it coming up on your Facebook. So are you connected? Are you linked? Or are you banned? Maybe that's why. Maybe, Ed, you were being a naughty boy and you've been banned this time instead of me. It's usually me who's banned or shadow banned and every other ban there is. Let's see. Oh my God, my dog is driving me nuts. Hold on, baby. Okay. Let me see what's going down here. All right. Meta won't let me do stuff. It's on Ed's page. Well, I don't know what he's talking about. No, Ed's not on screen, but oh, wait, there's Ed. Ed, get out of here. You got no mic and camera connected, my friend. Okay, where's Ed? Where's Ed? Come on, Eddie. It's just technical difficulties. Don't worry about it. This is going to be a little different. Like I said, it's not my fault. Blame Ed, everybody. Blame Ed. Complaints department, go to Ed, not me. And then we'll take care of it that way. Nope, he's gone. He must not have been able to do it. Oh boy. All right. All right. You know what? Uh, are you set, Nick? I'll bring you on if you're set. Just give me a thumbs up, and we'll just go on without Ed for now, and we'll see what happens. All right, coming on. So, Nick Thompson, everyone.
Hey guys. So I'll just start by introducing myself. The full name is Nicholas Thompson. I go usually by Nick. Uh, so I was a student at Robert Land Academy from 2020 to 2024. Um, and, and I know a lot of the alumni that I've spoken to over the years that went throughout the years, such as Stefanos, a lot of the other ones. Um, there was a lot of differences between the Robert Land of the era and Stefanos' era, and then compared to my era. So tonight I'm going to answer some questions, kind of just talk about what Robert Land was like in 2022. Steph, thank you so much
Hey,
for
Nick,
having me on
hold
today.
on a sec there. Can you just adjust your mic just a
Yeah,
little bit closer? You're cutting out a little bit, but all
can you hear
right.
me now? Can you hear me
Yeah,
better,
yeah.
Steph?
Oh,
Perfect.
perfect, perfect.
Perfect. So first of all, thank you, Steph, for having me on tonight. Very grateful for the opportunity, and for anyone that has questions, if there's any alumni out on the that's watching that has questions for what it was like Robert Land 2020 to 2024, shoot me questions. We're here to answer questions as well.
All right, awesome, awesome. So let's start with your introduction to Robert Land. When everybody's got a different version, but I noticed in the later years it started coming to be of the old deception drop and run move. So I don't know what it was like for you.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Steph. So for me, I arrived at Robert Land Academy in 2020. I chose to go to Robert Land. It wasn't because of any of the issues I was facing or anything like that. I always wanted to get into a very high end program to
Hold on
study
a
in.
sec. You're starting to go again with
Yeah.
the yeah. There you go.
So I chose to go to Robert Land. It wasn't under any influence of any third party parents, none of that. I chose to go to Robert Land, and I think what really stood out to me.
Oh, we may have lost him. We may have lost him. Could be going through a dead area. Could be dead area.
Oh,
Are you back?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I am.
Okay.
So for as I was saying, for myself, I chose to go to Robert Land for the academic program. I did fairly well at Robert Land, graduated. You know, it was definitely the academic side of it that definitely got me to go. However, there was some things I definitely saw that happened that I kind of questioned a little bit myself. There was some staff members, I won't name their names, that I definitely had some questions about. But there was also some very, very, truly good-hearted staff members that were there. Towards the years of 2022, 2023, and I guess you could say till the end of Robert Lane Academy, a lot of the staff there started changing the way they presented themselves, the way that they interacted with us. So there was a massive difference in the staffing at Robert Lane Academy. Um, they started, I didn't even think this would have ever happened, but they started bringing on female staff, which as crazy as that sounds, it was a little crazy at first, but I mean, they definitely tried to make propaganda a little bit more diverse and a little bit more, I guess, on the softer end of things.
Volume again. Your mic.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they definitely made Robert Land a little bit on the lower end side. There was still, the odd consequences, push-ups, laps, headmaster's charge, company commander's charge, academic charge. There was still all of that. But I mean, I think what was the biggest thing about Robert Land that I think was that was necessary for some of the students, and I think that a lot of people might agree, is that the academic structure of that school, as much as it might have, sucked being there, a lot of people there were able to be successful in their careers because of the academic program there. Everyone there was all academic level courses, and I think that's what definitely gave a lot of people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's what Robert Lane Academy, you know, they put themselves out there for that. But I think what really just made the school very different was the fact that
Oh, you cut out there and froze for a bit. Oh, I think you're gone again. Or are you back?
I'm still here.
Oh, the
So
joys of mobile. All right,
the
I think you're back now. Okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. The other thing I think that Robert Lane Academy, what they did struggle with is, I think they struggled a lot with the media. There was a lot of misconceptions about Robert Lance, and I think that's what, definitely had some issues. But I also think there was some things that Robert Land that I think I think was just a little bit excessive. I remember back in my first year at Robert Land in 2020. The rule was that recruits did not get a Skype call or a phone call to their parents uh, until they reached the rank of cadet. So I know that, that definitely was a lot of, concern for a lot of the other students there. And I think that caused major mental health, like, strain on a lot of students. And there was just, there was a lot of things that the academy had that I think eventually over time they lost it because it just wasn't adding into the way society was anymore. But I also think one of the biggest things that Robert Lane had that needed to change was the discipline structure. I think the way that they had some of the discipline was getting out of age, and it never really changed. Uh, if you went on suspension in 2020 to 2024, anytime, and at least in my time frame, you'd still go outside, you'd still be given your meal, but you would go outside and you'd stand in the gym, you'd look at the gym wall, and they having meal there in complete silence. And it was still the same thing. And it was just, I don't think that was necessary. I think the idea of suspension was for them in the Robert Dan mindset was that, you needed to take yourself out of the class to focus on whatever it was that the student wanted. But I think what was very interesting is that, when staff members, sorry, parents started mentioning this, that, students were missing classes, they changed the suspension rules where you could go to class and you would still do your academic studies. So I think that was a big change that the academy needed, but I think it also still had its issues because, at that time, a lot of the things that were people being suspended for towards 2020 to 2024, probably about 90% of them were extremely excessive, unreasonable punishments. I remember there were some kids that would go on suspension just for, not following mess etiquette rules. And I mean, do I think the mess etiquette thing was a little bit excessive? Yes. I remember it was back in my time frame, it was 2 bowls of cereal, like two glasses of milk, juice, whatever, kind of that thing. I will say though, nobody ever followed it. I mean, I would sit at the table with a bunch of the students, and I don't think any of us really cared about, the basic mess hall rules. So I think that was kind of where we kind of all just sat there and we were like, you know what, treat this as your last meal because, we were only given, single plate of rations. So it was definitely, we definitely had the mindset there, especially in the mess hall of, if this is your last meal, make the meal count.
Did you? I gotta ask.
Yes. Yeah,
did,
go right ahead.
did you guys ever get in crap for elbows on the table? Uh,
Okay,
not
so
not using the proper
yes,
force. They were
yes.
both
Okay,
sitting on
so
the wrong side and stuff.
yeah,
That was
yes,
crazy.
yes. Okay, so there was a bunch of staff members, and it would be 7 o'clock in the morning. We'd be in the mess hall, um, and we just, everyone's, still waking up. I knew for a fact there was not a lot of people at Robert Land that were morning people, and I could definitely tell. Um, but I definitely remember it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and one of the staff members towards 2020, the start of 2023 to 2024. I'm not sure if he did it in 2024, 2025, because I wasn't there. But I remember he would come into the mess hall at 7 a.m. He'd stand in the kitchen and just watch kids come through, grab their meal, and then he would go around and he would like hand out cereal, milk. Like it was almost like it was funny. It was like I remember like I remember there was actually one time I walked into the kitchen to grab, because we had like these duties where we had to, if our table ran out of milk or whatever, we had to go back in and grab it. I remember there was one time I went in and I got screamed at for getting apparently too many bags of milk. Like apparently our table had gone through too many bags of milk, and that apparently it was just excessive. So there was definitely a lot of that happened, and then there was also times where I would see like just staff members yell someone's last name out, and then it would just be like stand up, like just someone standing there at 7 o'clock in the morning trying to eat their breakfast just because they. I think the term was double biting or something. I don't really remember, but it was just like it was just the little excessive things that I think were just to the point where it's just like it wasn't even peaceful eating in the mess hall. And I remember, you know, a lot of them would have separate conversations. On my table there was separate conversations on one side, and then the second side. It was multiple conversations, but it's just like I think every 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds you'd always hear a staff call someone's last name out, and it's just everyone looking around. It's like I don't think in the mess hall we actually really ate peace. I think there was always someone there just wanting to police us, and it always I feel like it always happened in the morning. No matter what it was always 7 a.m. breakfasts that was probably the police the most had.
So, so what
Senior
was
staff members, everything.
what was the consequence of double biting or something? What was the consequences for that?
So the consequences when I started back in 2020, they had this thing called alternative messing, which I guess from my understanding of it, it never happened to me, but just the way I understood it from reading the recruit course was that you would basically relearn how to eat food to the Robert Land standard. So I don't know if anyone actually got that or if that was something they even implemented, but what that was is where they would put you on alternative messing, is where they would make you eat outside in the gym. Like you would you go around, you grab your food from the back of the kitchen, and then you'd walk into the gym, you'd stand in the gym hallway, and you just eat in a gym full of like nothing. It's just an empty hall, and you're just standing there. There's a staff member just standing there watching, and it's just like some of the things with the way the mess hall was ran never really made sense. And I will say from experience, there was one time where I was outside in the mess hall, like where I had to go get my food outside of the mess hall because I was quote unquote not welcome in the mess hall, which that's the way they described it to me. But I never really understood what the point of alternative messing was. But I think it's pretty simple to eat food. At least I hope it is. But I don't know. I think Robert Mann had a little bit excessive control, had this almost like obsession with the way of wanting to be very structured. Now, do I 100% agree that maybe some of the ways that we were taught to connect Robert Mann is definitely beneficial for, if you're going out on a date or you're at an expensive restaurant? Yes, 100% will agree. But do I think making people do it 3 times a day just to, make the school look good, I think that was a little excessive.
Yeah, so I remember watching students get their arms slammed, all sorts of stuff because of their holding their having their elbow on the table.
Yeah.
Like us was more physical violence. That's what it was, violence, straight up. And the, uh, the craziness of so you're saying you would be, if you some suspension or whatever they call it, and you'd be facing a wall and eating that.
Yeah.
At least you got to eat. Like I did, not me. I was expensive laps. Like you're constantly running. You
Yes.
forget how
Yes.
many laps you ran. You just keep running. Then you
Yeah.
got your
So,
arms out. Then you're doing push-ups. Then you're doing jumping
yeah.
jacks there. And
So,
then and so. But what happened is they would keep you out there until there's like 5 minutes left. Then you would get in a glass of milk and a slice of bread. That's all I would get every time.
and then the other thing that happened, and they got rid of it after my first year. So when I came back to Robert Land in the year of 2021 to 2022, they dropped this thing called wrapped meals. And what wrapped meals was if you didn't eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the same day. So say you didn't eat breakfast, you got your breakfast for lunch and you didn't get lunch. And if you didn't eat your if you didn't eat your breakfast at lunch, and then they would wrap it up again, put it in the fridge with their name on it. And then when it became dinner time, if you still didn't eat your breakfast and it was dinner time, you still got the same meal. It was vice versa for any three of the meals, but that was something that happened, and I don't really get what that was supposed to train us on in Robert Land terms. But I definitely noticed that when that was happening, they said they didn't want the food to be wasted. And I'm thinking to myself when this was happening, because it happened to me one time, because some of the food there, and I'm just going to be straightforward and honest. A lot of the alumni, I think, from my time agree, is it was just slop, like no effort, nothing. It was every Monday, at least for I want to recount at least 2 years I was there. Every Monday morning for breakfast, it was Eggo waffles and sausages. And the same sausages that I want to say that have probably been in that school system, had been in that school system. Oh, geez, I don't know, maybe the entire time frame that existence of that school. And it was always the same thing. And then it was there was one meal that we had all the time that I always saw students throw it out. It was beans and wieners. And I know that maybe back in that time frame of, say the 90s, 80s, it was quick meals and you got out. But I mean, these were beans and wieners to the point where it's like you took one bite of it, it's almost like you felt you were going to throw up. So I know that in time frame when we had beans and wieners and stuff like that, a lot of people ended up on bed rest, which was where they spent the whole day in the barracks because they weren't feeling well. I remember they were throwing up everywhere. Like it was the beans and wieners. I'm so glad they got rid of it. And I have to say, the new headmaster that came in the start of when I started at Robert Lane Academy, Ryan Smith. I had a lot of respect for him, and I think his intention for the school was to change it into a more academic structure school. And the first thing he got rid of was the wrapped meals, and just the idea where they did is they started bringing in diversity for a lot of the meals. So I want to say between the end of 2023 going into my graduation year, they started being a little bit more inclusive with the meals. There was a lot different varieties. There was more, different meals. It wasn't the same meal all the time. I think for so long at Robert Man, you stuck with the same thing. And at least that was, the benefit of the doubt, as I'll call it. They started giving us the benefit of the doubt. But back to your question, Stefanos, about what the discipline was in the mess hall, like in our time. The only real discipline that you got was if you didn't have a napkin on your lap, and if you didn't, put your fork down and stuff like that, it was either you got yelled at, you were told to stand up, and stand behind your chair at the position of attention, or it was you'd go outside to the foyer of the mess hall and you do PT. I remember there was some staff members that would make some students, and I won't name names for anyone, but some I'd see some students, they'd get a whole like at least 15-minute PT session in front of the mess hall while everyone's like just trying to eat their supper, lunch, whatever it is. And then depending on some of the staff there, they would take you and they'd walk you out of the mess hall, make you run 10 laps, and then and after that, if you finished your 10 laps and it wasn't in the time frame where we had that scheduled for lunch, you didn't finish your lunch. You didn't get, the opportunity to go back into the mess hall, have your lunch, because you were being quote unquote, in Robert Land terms, stupid. Which a lot of us, in the time frame of that era knew that we weren't being stupid. We were just, we didn't agree with a lot of the document rules. And I think it was just it was a very interesting mess hall come 2020, 2024. And I think what's different is it wasn't the same type of, like physical standard that, Stefanos, like what you had experienced. So a massive difference in the way that this works in the mess hall.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some things discipline wise. Oh damn, we lost him.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry. Yeah.
So it seems like they tried to do some stuff, but at the end of the day, the one thing that of everything that you said, the time frames, everything that you need. One thing I think has affected a lot of people. A lot of people don't notice it. I noticed it, and that is just stuffing your face and eating your food, even to today,
Yes.
as fast as you freaking can. And that's one of the things that has stuck with me because you were everything was on a time, and you couldn't be delayed at a time, or there was always consequence of some sort. And what's even worse is I'm Greek, so I'm ethically challenged. We're like always fashionably late on anything, so that was really hard for me to do anything. But so that was supposed to be a joke and make people laugh. But anyways, so that's the but that's an effect of that I've noticed, and I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but Bruce Ness, who was I think it was your cook at the years you were there. He was a student when I was a student at Robert Land, so it's interesting that he stayed there throughout the years. He was a really nice guy too. Everybody loved Bruce. We all piled on him, and we all gave him his birthday spankings, the whole school and everything. So and I ran into him not too long ago, actually at the post office, and we had a nice little conversation. But yeah, he was a good guy. I just find that interesting that he stayed on with the school. Oh, looks like we lost you. Are you back now?
I think there's definitely another point I want.
Well, the point was probably a big point. It was so big he got thrown right out. kind of like you, Ed.
Sorry about technical difficulties. It's StreamYard and unbelievable.
We lost Nick. You're cutting in and out. At least am I coming in okay, guys? Like I didn't get a sound check or anything. We're flying by the seat of our pants here. Oh, Nick's back here. Let's throw him back.
Looks like you got a dog going on, some kind of dog situation.
Sorry about that, Steph. I think I lost cell service there really quickly. What I was going to mention next about what changed during Robert Land, I would say the Bears' life kind of got a little bit different. Steph, you told me a lot about how Robert Land was very structured in the Bears. I want to say, come 2022, 2023, at least in my time frame, they liked it a lot. It wasn't super excessive, but I did notice that when we had our big inspection right before the Christmas holiday, I did notice that the person that was always inspecting us, it was a lot lighter than what it was in my first year. So I remember in one of my first ever major inspections with one of the senior academy leaders, um, I remember he would come in, it was 7 a.m. inspection, and if something was off, and if you had been, written up or something the night before, he went extra hard on you. And it wasn't like he was giving you a small grace period. If he was in a mood, you didn't get the benefit of the doubt. It was excessive. So I remember there was one student, and it was in the same cubicle that I was sharing with. So I'm standing out at the position of attention in front of my locker. The person who was inspecting me, he walked through it, looked through it. He gave me a decent look, I'll say that. And I don't remember what he said, but I know he said something to me, and I don't remember what he said fully. He goes on to the next student, and the next student that was there, his locker, and I'm going to give him credit. Like he put a lot of effort into it, but there was, I think it was his bed, because we had to use a ruler to measure out our bed by 30 by 30, and that's what it was. I remember there was one staff member. What he did is he had his own magic ruler, and I don't know where he got it from. I have never seen this ruler before, and I think he measured it, and it was, I want to say, like the tiniest bit of the cent, like it was so, like just barely off. I remember what he did. The staff member grabbed that bed, chucked it out the window, looked into the locker, and then he went. It's almost like you could say it was like an attack mode. He started picking through everything, and then what he did is that he tore that locker to the shreds. Took the individual, when he got back from class, it took him probably hours just to replace and just make everything back to standard. So that was in my first year, and I remember that, and that was, I think, towards the end of the excessive Robert Lands, trying to make us into military officers or something like that. But it was definitely an interesting experience watching that happen. And I'm going to be completely honest. There was one inspection I had with one officer. You know, I can say that I always wasn't the perfect student at Robert Land. I don't think anyone there was a perfect student. But there was situations where it happened to me too. I saw my entire locker get ripped. I saw my entire like platoon get ripped. I saw the entire barracks get ripped when I was in charge of the barracks and in charge of the platoon. So it was very excessive, you know, the way that they inspected us, and I think it was to uphold standards. Now, do I think those standards were bad? No. But do I think, enforcing it every day was excessive? Yes. And I think that's what there was not really anything, compared to your time, Stefanos, that really changed. The only difference was they allowed us to have, personal letters and stuff. So we got, they say, like, if someone's friend, sent that they allowed that because it was to, but it wasn't really something. There wasn't a lot that changed in the Bears compared to your time to my time.
Yeah. So the see, we never got letters. We never any letters we wrote out to send home. They would never get home.
Yeah, except I can't hear you on my end.
Do you hear me now? How about now? You hear me now? Uh-oh. Everybody else hear me? Anybody hear me? Oh, that's why he couldn't hear me. Lost connection again. Well, life of the mobile phone. It's a little hard to do that stuff nowadays. You would think we're in 2026 and, they still can't improve the mobile networks enough that you can get coverage everywhere and have no problems. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in today, and we have Nick back.
Sorry about that. I do have probably a little bit of the spottier service out here where I am.
Yeah, it was probably why you couldn't hear me. Is you probably were gone and just didn't know it yet. But what I was saying was, inspections. Would you have your normal inspections every morning, and then Friday would be a white glove inspection, or they give up with the white glove?
It was interesting because it started as every Friday as a white glove inspection, but then it was interesting because in 2023, when there was a change of company commander in my company, he changed a lot of the things that happened compared to the previous company commander. And I think what the difference was is I think I noticed something, and I think it was a very good thing that happened was the company commander we had in 2023 stayed, I think, until the academy closed, is the way that it happened was he was one of the staff members that he earned the respect of the students. And I think a lot of the alumni from my time frame would agree that he gave us the opportunity to earn this respect. So what he did is he did it where it was usually every Tuesday morning was the white glove inspection, but we still had standardized inspections, but it changed. So for example, on Monday it was if you shaved and you cleaned your boots and polished them. Tuesday was usually the full kit layout inspection, white glove go through everything we got. And then it was on Wednesdays, it was, the house job inspections. Thursday it was these small things where they would check, like, do this with polish job. It really became some discretion. I think kind of the way that I kind of think about it now, I think the way that the academy changed it was it just became the discretion of the company commanders on what they want to do.
Wow. So, so was there a point system during inspection?
Yes. So that's a very good thing that you brought up, Steph. So back in 2023, I think it was when it started, is they brought in this whole point system, and it was an interesting point system. I'll give you that. There was a lot of inside jokes that a lot of us, made about it because it was, in some discretion, it was a little bit funny. But what it was like a point system is if you put the effort in class, you got X amount of points for showing up and doing this in class. If you passed your inspection, you got X amount of points for that. If you did it extremely well on like something to the academy, like I don't know, you volunteered to rate the grades where there was a bunch of things they did. But this point system was, they had this thing, and it was called the 100 Club. And there was, I think it was me and a couple other people in my graduating class that made it. And I know it's like exactly for myself, I still don't know how I got into this 100 Club thing, quote unquote, because it's like you would just, it's almost like the expectations of Robert Lamb were just so like inside your head that you just knew what you had to do. And I think it was just, at first it was to try to reward the students more, but some of the rewards were like going to Niagara Falls and just walking around Niagara Falls. Like it was not really, it was a point system, but there was not really a lot that was earned. I think the only thing that they really gave out was like a trip to the movies. I know that a staff member had his own gym and he invited students there as like part of the rewards trip. But it's not like you really got anything, big for it. It's not like they gave you, like a pizza party to yourself or to your section, nothing like that. I will say though that they did tell us multiple times that if we did, a certain thing and we got, if the barracks passed
a major inspection, we'd all get a pizza party. And there was this one thing that one staff member created. It was like this big spinning wheel, and it had like a bunch of quote unquote prizes. Um, I noticed something, and I'm gonna just say it. I think that thing was a little bit rigged because it was like it had things like, oh, the company commander does laps, the company does like a X amount of push-ups, no like drill practice on Thursday. I noticed something, and I don't think I'm crazy when I say this. It's every time it would happen on promotions when they spin the quote unquote wheel, it always for some reason landed on some sort of discipline. So I don't know if that's just jokes on the academy or if it was just, free, like they did it so it was just always discipline. But it was very, very interesting. And I remember they said multiple times we'd get a pizza party. I think I counted only 2 pizza parties in the entire time of my 4 years there, and we were probably promised at least 30 of them.
I gotta say, that wheel was absolutely rigged. I can't see Robert Land Academy. Maybe it's because of my time there, but that's quite comical. Well, it's serious stuff, but I find it comical only because of my experience there and
Yeah.
that happened for my time. I know
So,
it
and that was funny because the only thing that changed was instead of the company doing laps, I think there was a bunch of the things on the wheel, but it said company commander runs 15 laps or company sleeping. But if the company sleeping was only like 15 minutes, it's not like it was like an extra hour or 30 minutes. It was, if anything, 15 minutes. But because it was a shared barracks, there would be people who were up at like 6 o'clock, and they'd be making so much noise that the quote unquote sleeping was not really a sleeping. It was just another day of Robert Rance, I guess you could say. There was really no sleeping.
when you got them walking into the barracks, and well, I don't know about your barracks because they're much different than mine, but you got them walking in. We had, I don't know who your company commander was. It was the housemaster we had, and then we had our student that was in charge, our NCO of everybody, and then you know. It would usually be Smith, wakey, wakey in the swamp. It's time to
So,
grab your socks. And
so
everybody's getting up. No one's sleeping in.
there was one staff member, and I won't name his name, but he had this very, very catchy phrase that a lot of us students we started joking around about because it sounds like he would just walk into every barracks and he'd walk around every hallway and he kept saying, "Morning, gentlemen, morning, 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 gentlemen, morning, morning," and he did that. I want to say he did that every single day, and then it was just like it was to the point. I think it was just so excessive that we even started joking about it. And then I remember there was one student when I was walking over to class, and I had been called up to the operations building to speak with one of the staff who wanted to speak with me about something. And I remember I heard one student walk by and he said, "Morning, gentlemen," as a joke. I think he said it to another student walking by, that staff member who always said it. And yes, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Zara. So ASM Paul Zara, he was the Academy Sergeant Major. He always had this thing of saying, "Morning, gentlemen, morning, morning." Like it was so excessive that there was a student that I was very good friends with. He always made the joke of "morning, gentlemen," and he used this accent voice. But I remember one student said that to him, and I think he just had really good hearing or something, and he lied about it, saying that he didn't have good hearing. I remember that kid got immediately put to the ground, and it was just push-ups. I think it was just like the idea of having fun and just joking around, even when the academy was getting softer in quote-unquote terms. It was still nothing really changed in the sense of it, but I think if you could really describe the change of Robert Land, they said all these things, but nothing really happens. And I think that's kind of the change that really happened, at least from my perspective, is that they said all these things were going to happen, but it never really did.
So so we've seen Zara, we've seen the video on YouTube with the
Yes.
sexual assaults that one boy was supposed to do on another. And at
Yeah.
the end of that video, we saw that they reported that Zara was placed on administrative leave. So no surprise
Yes.
there from the
No
stories.
surprise. No surprise. And
There was
I think there's a
there,
lot of questions that a lot of people, are definitely wondering, especially within the alumni group and especially the general public. 'Cause I know there's been a lot of general public questions about Jonathan Jeffrey Halstead. I will say there is a publication ban, so I will, limit to what I say. So some of the alumni know that I was a student at the same time that Jonathan Jeffrey Halstead was employed by the academy. Um, he was my physical education teacher, and when he started, it was I don't remember what month he started, but it was 2022 he started, and he walked into the. I was in the B Company Bears at the time, so that would have been it was in my grade 10 year he started. I remember the first time I saw Jonathan Jeffrey Halstead. He walked in, and he was working the night shift. And my first thought about Jonathan was, I have no clue who this guy is. This guy gives me a little bit of a weird vibe. So I never really talked to Halstead. I never talked to him outside of the school. I never really was someone that interacted a lot with Halstead. However, I did notice Halstead was a very interesting staff member from the way he was in the school. And I think a lot of people in the alumni have a lot of questions about Mr. Halstead, and definitely willing to answer some in the comment section if anybody has any. But the biggest thing, and now that we know that he has been convicted of the crimes that he's been convicted of and now serving his jail time sentence, one of the biggest things that I'm gonna point out because it brought a lot of questions to me, and I know a lot of us students in that time frame we started talking about it, is the biggest thing that we noticed is it was always in the lunch hour. You go report to the lab station, and had labs, you go run your laps off before, and you go to the mess hall. It was very interesting to notice, and I want to say the other thing is too. I spoke to some staff about this, and even some staff members that were newer in the last 2 years. I want to say they started noticing it, so it started going around a lot. There was a lot of staff members saying the exact same thing. A lot of students were saying is we always noticed Jonathan Jeffrey Halstead. He was always around the A company students, which the A company students were the I think it was grade 6 or something, so about grade 8 or so.
the
So I
youngest.
always noticed that, yeah, the youngest company, which would have been, I think it was Able Company or Alpha, something like that. But I definitely noticed that. And it was very interesting because anytime that you go to lab station, if you didn't have labs, you'd go to the mess hall. I started hearing from other students, they would start saying, oh, by the way, have you guys noticed that Halstead's always coming out of the gym with the younger students every time we go into the mess hall? And that was very noticeable. And then it was also noticed where some of the other staff would even say, they would go to other staff, anything that was said by staff members, you heard it very quickly. The staff tried to stay silent about a lot of things, but you could still overhear a lot of the things. It was very interesting. Is he would always be in their barracks or around their barracks. It was not normal. And I think when when I say it wasn't normal, it's like, when you drink a specific soda so many times that it's just a habit. I almost feel like it was a habit. And I know that we had a second gym teacher. His name I won't name, but I think the second gym teacher we had was a lot more respected than the other individual. But I noticed that he was only one phys ed teacher that was always around the students. Did I have a lot of questions about it myself? Yes. The night that I found out that Jonathan Jeffrey Halstead had been arrested on academy grounds, the first thing I said to myself is this even true? Because the way Halstead presented himself, he was the last person, and I think a lot of the alumni, once we first heard about this, especially in my time period, we never ever would have thought that this would have actually been true, that he was, would have been later on to be convicted of the privacy of this individual.
So
So
it
our
was, so Steve is saying was an LT guy. My understanding is
yes,
LT guy was his boss.
yes. So LT Guy was a lot more respected than Mr. Alstead. I'll say that. I think a lot of students
Funny
like
thing is, I
yes.
got one of LT guy's uniforms.
Good for you. So back to the Alstead. The night that I found out about it, I definitely was. It was a shock. This individual was, our gym teacher. He was, he took me and a bunch of the other students out for, cross country, track and field, soccer, a bunch of things. And I know that a lot of the other students, because all the students talked, he would say a lot of, terms and just a lot of things when we were outside of the academy. And if it was, say at a soccer event, for example, there was, times where he'd say, "Hey, go talk to this person, go talk to that person," and he would just say a lot of things that I think brought a lot of concern to a lot of the students. And it was to the point where I could tell that a lot of the students, even myself too, we started like being uncomfortable just with the things he would say around us in public and just how he was. I don't think he was, all that, best in the best of health. But I think, the way he showed himself in the academy was he always tried to, at the academy, he always tried to put himself like, above the standard. Like he tried to go out of his way to make sure, we had volunteer hours, stuff like that. But I think he was respected by the students. I definitely say he was respected, but I think the way he was, maybe it was just something his health or something that he was about it. I'm not too sure. I just don't want to speak to that. I just don't know. But it was definitely something that he was serving. And I definitely, the night that I found out that he was arrested, the first thing in my head was, like, what are you doing? You're insane to think that you have done this. And then, once we started figuring it out, and then I remember, I started looking into this myself. I started going like, okay, wow, this man is a absolutely disgusting individual. I realized, and it was I could definitely tell it was the day after he was arrested. Alumni group chat with everyone in my time frame. So we had a very lengthy and extensive conversation about it, and I could definitely tell probably about all the students were like, "This is somebody we trusted, and now he's this. So who's next?" Kind of thing. And it was just to the point where I think we just realized that, a lot of the staff members there who lied to us, really did not have their like our best interest. And I think it's disappointing because, if you look at Alstead's, if you look at Alstead's records, you know, he was a very accomplished individual. I will agree with what the judge said. He had some accomplishments that I think he was, trying to do. But I think what really caused him is he just shattered the trust of so many students. And as one of his students, where I was, at cross country because he was the cross country coach. I sit there and I sit and think to myself, it's like the fact that this individual was a teacher of mine. I don't even know what to describe it. It's just disgraceful, disgusting, and I'm glad the justice system did what they did. Do I agree with the sentence he got? No, I do think it should have been longer, but at least he is being put away, and to the people that were targeted by him, you know, I haven't said this, but if they are watching, I am very sorry that you guys had to experience that individual. What he did is unacceptable. Has no, no thing in our society. And anyone who does that, I believe, should be prosecuted to the extensive.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure if you saw me confronting Alstead there that day he was sentenced, but
I did see that video, Stefanos, and I think it's a little bit disgraceful that the government in Canada, like it's only till now that we've seen Bill C-14 taking effect on July 15th. You know, my question is to the government is why are we doing this? Like, these people that we're supposed to trust.
Well,
The fact that
you're
also,
really cutting out like really bad. Like maybe change your position again.
so the biggest, one of the other things too that we mentioned is the fact that Alstead was given bail and then broke his bail conditions. Uh, you know, just hearing that and then getting rearrested for that Alstead was getting rearrested again for breaking his bail conditions. Um, you know, my thought about that was it's just that's just unacceptable. And I said it. It's like we're supposed to trust this individual in society and be out on bail. I don't agree with our bail system the way that was done. And I do understand the court was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But to be out on bail and then you break your own bail condition.
Oh, it looks like we lost Nick again here. Are you back, Nick?
Can you hear me now? Yeah, can you hear me now, Steph?
Yeah, I hear you.
The fact he broke his bail conditions, I think that was just, you know, I don't really get the idea why you want to break your bail conditions. Just like, as any reasonable person, if anyone was ever charged and they're on bail, they're trying to, get a better, have a chance to, prove themselves that they're not guilty, whatever the case may be. The fact that he had the two other charges, the fact he was rearrested, when we found out more about what he was doing, it was just on disgusting reading and then, attending the court hearings he had, and, what the judge had said and all these things. And it's just, I remember, listening to these proceedings and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that this individual was trusted by an academy that had, some of them, I would definitely say were a little more vulnerable people and less vulnerable. That was
So,
attending.
so this is what is I find most disturbing.
Yes,
So the
and
justice
I will
system,
clarify one thing that I think a lot of people ask, and I think a lot of people can answer to is Alstead never was in communication to any of the students there. It never involved, at least from what I understand, what I've read, and reading and hearing what happened in the courtroom, is it never involved any of the students formal or current during the time he was in court. So I want to clarify that for any umpire, anybody out there in the public, that the people that Alstead was communicating with was not anybody related to Robert Vance. So that is a big question that I've had a lot of people ask. Like, was it Robert Vance students? Was it people in the public? So nobody from Robert Vance, like student-wise, was targeted. There was initial thought that maybe someone from Robert Vance was, but it turned out it wasn't.
all right, we're coming up on our last couple of minutes. I want to make a
Yeah.
couple of points here. I'll bring a few things up, and then we'll let you go, and you can say whatever your closing is. But I'll tell you this: a couple of things. So I'm going to go back all the way to inspections and the point system. At my time, we had a point system already in place, and we would accumulate points. You would get no brownie points for doing your homework and being a good boy, but you would get points added on to you if you didn't do your homework, say, or something. Inspections. There was no, we're going to inspect your boots this day, we're going to do bathrooms this day, and then it was every single day. If your socks were not smiling, I don't know if they had that when you were there, but
Yeah, that was it. But I mean, towards
right.
the end of it, I think people stopped caring.
Right. So if your socks weren't smiling, you get nailed there. There's if your shirts were hung improperly and they weren't facing the collars and stuff weren't facing to the left, you would be screwed there. Boots not being polished. Your dress boots. I don't know if you had two separate sets of boots.
Yeah, so we had our scarlet dress shoes and then our regular combat boots. I guess that's what they called them. Um, the only difference was towards the end, nobody really kind of started polishing. And then I definitely would say they definitely stopped doing the excessive inspections. I want to say towards the end of 2024, mid 2024 is when it
Right.
stops.
So what we would do, and then every Friday, no matter what, was white glove. So they would come with the white glove, and like I said, bathrooms were inspected daily, kit inspected daily, bed had to be made properly. Like, we didn't get this day or that day. We were just fucked. It was normal inspection, white glove on Friday. And if you hit at the end of the week a certain amount of points, I can't remember, it's been so long, you'd end up on the goon squad, and you just PT you to fucking death. Lunch, breakfast, dinner, didn't matter. You were out there PTing, milk, and one slice of bread, and that was it. But what was the reward? You said you had a wheel. We didn't have a wheel, but if you struck perfect on your points accumulations and crap like that, or demerits either way, uh, what was the reward? You would get seconds. We didn't get to go to movies. We didn't get to go to Niagara Falls. Trust me, if we got to go to Niagara Falls and walk around, there would have been so many students that would have went AWOL. It wouldn't have even been funny. So the other thing I want to put touch points on is I spoke with a lot of students from the 2025 year. They said Alstead, they all figured, was a pedophile piece of shit because of a couple of points. One is that you brought up. He was always with Acoy, I think you
Yes.
said. So that
Yeah.
was all the youngest students. He was always with them. The other thing was he would show up every morning and be at the gym
Yes. 7 a.m.
with
7 a.m.
him,
He would always be.
right, and he always had a little girl with him. So, and they found that very awkward because it's an all boys school, but there was a girl he would always bring, and he would always use the excuse that he was giving her extra training on the side for whatever. The other thing about Alstead was that I spoke to the students of 2025 was they sat there, and Alstead would be at some sporting event of another one or the other. But when they were at the meets like wrestling or the track and field or whatever, um, he would be all of a sudden telling this particular student, "Holy fuck, look at that chick. I'd like to fucking do her. She's got a wicked ass." And they would look at him and say, "What chick are you talking about?" And he would say, "Her over there." And it was always like a 12 or 13-year-old girl he was saying this about. So this is how these disgusting piece of shit predators are. The other thing I'm going to address is his nice accolades and his fucking awards. If you haven't seen my video where I confront him at the courthouse, I'll send it up to you. I let that
And
little piece of
step,
shit
and step, to, and step to your point, I definitely agree with what with that. Is he deserves to be stripped of that, and I think it's good that they did suspend his license immediately after I think it was
I,
athletics.
I made
Yes.
I made sure that he's
Yes.
banned Canada wide and that he's stripped of everything. A piece of garbage like that has no business around children. I don't give a crap who it is. Like, and what was ultimately the most disgusting was when he addressed the judge. He says, while he's crying like a little bitch that he is, because he's no fucking man. He sat there and he said to the judge that, "I know a lot of people are mad at Robert Land Academy right now, but that was the best thing that could have happened to those kids." What? You know,
I think that
the
was a
thing
little
is,
bit of a, yeah, I know. It was
the
an
thing
interesting
is,
statement.
the fact of the matter is, when you have a piece of shit predator trying to prompt himself up, and trust me, I have a lot more investigations going on him and that whole family right now. They just don't know. And if they see this now, good. I hope they get caught. But there's a lot of stuff going on that people aren't aware of. And that, you know what? I really don't give a fuck what I say here. You be careful. Me, I'm not going to be careful. I don't care. These pieces of shit belong in other places aside of prisons. But they need to be The real thing that was disappointing to me, not only was it the amount of time that he was given, which was too little, um, and I'm just going to make it clear to everybody watching this. I'm not blaming the judge. I'll never blame the judge. I'm not going to blame the courts on what he was handed. I'll never do that. Who I'm going to blame and what you all need to do is blame the fucking politicians like the PC party, sorry, the Conservative Party, the Liberals, the NDP, the Greens. Blame all of them because they're the ones that create the legislation. And as the judge said, when she was handing down her sentencing and her reasons and everything, instead of being all consecutive like the Crown wanted, the judge had to make one of them concurrent. And why? Because her hands are bound by legislation. There you go. Who's the legislate? Where does legislation come from? It comes from the legislators. Those are your elected idiots, the useless feeders. Okay, those are the ones that made it this way, and it includes all of them, all of the parties. It's not just the liberals. I know it's really easy because everybody hates the liberals so much, but it's all of them. They all voted for this garbage. If you go back to the history, you can see the votes. You'll see it's them, all of them. This is why Sam Goosterhoff or Oosterhoff, who I run against in Niagara West, who is where the academy is his riding, he completely dismissive of this stuff. They're protecting pedophiles. Paul Calandra, the education minister, something he can do and take care of just to protect kids in private schools. It would take less than 5 minutes. He won't do it. He's another goof pedo protector. Fat fucking Ford, ultimately, that's the biggest pile of big fucking fat shit. And unfortunately, I'm kind of ashamed to admit I helped that fucking fat fuck in a couple of elections. I wish I didn't. And he won't even do that. He won't even fucking make it. They want to protect pedophiles and offer up our children in private schools for predators on a silver platter for them to fucking assault, destroy, and ruin lives. So the other thing I wanted to do and say is um, there's just it's unfortunate that this whole situation has happened. All of this kind of stuff's out of control. There's nothing to in place to control anything. There's nothing in place to protect kids in private schools at this point, as far as living conditions and everything else goes. There's not, it's just insane that a government, provincial or federal, this is obviously a provincial issue, uh, an idiot like Ford and the PC party of Ontario uh, don't want any part of doing anything to protect their children. It dumbfounds me. That's common sense. It's a no-brainer. But go ahead,
Sure.
go
Well,
ahead, Nick, and say your final piece there,
for
and
sure.
then we'll
Well,
come to
to first of all, to the alumni out there, you know what? For those who have reached out to me and to those that I've been able to connect with, it's been an absolute honor to hear you guys' story. I'm super glad that as a brotherhood, we're putting the differences that we had in the students that we disliked or liked, and we're coming back together and we're being the brotherhood that we went through. And I think it's really nice to see a lot of people reconnecting. I hear stories from alumni saying, "Hey, I was able to reconnect with this person. I had a very, love hate for him, but you know what? I'm glad that I'm back with him." So and talking to him again. So you know what, guys? It's been absolutely amazing to be able to reach out to alumni Stefanos. I'm super grateful that I've been able to connect with you and have the conversations we have. For that, guys, I am on my way out. Stefanos, thank you so much for having me, and you guys have a great evening.
yeah, and Nick, just for everybody watching, like myself and yourself, we've had disagreements, but I don't
Yes, we
hold
have.
anything
We
against
have.
you.
And that's a good point, Stefanos.
Yeah,
I will say,
I know.
Stefanos and I we've disagreed about Robert Land. We've disagreed about political issues, law issues. You name anything that two people from Robert Land, even if they're from different age groups or different years, it's still the same camaraderie brotherhood. So you know what? I'm so like when I get message requests on Facebook Messenger of alumni reaching out and saying, hey, I'm struggling, I need someone to talk to, it makes my day seeing alumni reach out to me and wanting to reconnect and bring the brotherhood back. So if you guys know alumni out there that are struggling, have them reach out to me and Stefanos, or even anyone that you know from your time that's struggling. We want to bring the brotherhood back, and it's reconnecting everything that we went through and having those shared memories. And I say it, and I'll say it to anybody: is Robert Land might have sucked, but the brotherhood that came out of that school is probably one of the most strongest brotherhoods. It's almost as stronger than the army and stronger as the country. So, as anyone that went to Robert Land, it's a brotherhood and it's a country alone. So, that's what I will say.
Yeah,
Stefanos, I have to get going.
absolutely.
So, you have a great evening.
Yeah, you too, Nick, and love you, bro, and you're my brother, so I don't hold
For
anything
sure. You
against
take care,
you
Steph.
or anybody else. Have a good night. All right, so sorry about the technical difficulties. Those are things that are beyond our control. I I just you know through the years of this abusive, extremely abusive school, and I'll call it a worse than a concentration camp. Uh, had many of my brothers from that school that have gone to the Canadian military, that have seen combat. Many of them wind up in prison. The one reoccurring thing, no matter what it is that none of these things even compared to what kind of a hell Robert Land Academy was. And just so you know, I have spoken to former staff. I actually have become friends with a lot of former staff. Uh, as crazy as that may seem, but these staff are a whole different breed. We had, and I'm going to give credit and kudos to John Chris. He was a teacher at that school and quit because he recognized immediately what was going on there was not legal. And he's helped out a lot of the boys um, put out what he saw, made affidavits, is a very integral part. And that is what I call somebody who is an honorable person. I don't care what your view was on that academy. A lot of people I've noticed from that school, ex students and stuff, I realize that are suffering from Stockholm syndrome, where they come up with an admiration or a love for their captors type of thing. In this case, their abusers. And, you know, I have so many conversations. Other things I see is not conversations, but observation of other conversations. And so many people, and even people that I've talked to, suffer from effects and they don't realize it until I say, is this something that you picked up after Robert Land Academy, or is this something you always had? All of them will always come up with after. I don't tell them, but I know just for myself. I'm clarifying and confirming everything. And these people, I don't, I don't want to. I'm no medical expert, but common sense tells you when you have eating disorders because you can't eat like a normal human being and you got to stuff everything down within a certain time limit, or you know, calling Nova. I'm going to take Nova Chapman, or anybody else. I'm going to take Nova, and I'm going to use her as an example. Sorry, Nova, I just can't resist. But um, at that school, and I found my big problem, and it took me a great many years to finally break this, and I finally broke it probably in the last. And I'm not going to say I broke it completely because I still do it. I would not call Nova in person Nova. I would call her Chapman. Hey, Chapman! That's what I would do. And that's because this is a method of brainwash that they used at that school of mind control on nobody has a first name, it's only last name only, and that's how you address everyone, last names. As we heard Nick speak about the mess hall when they were eating, if someone was doing something wrong, it'd be a last name that would be yelled out, a last name, and that person would stand up. And the whole point of that in brainwash and mind control is so that you cannot develop a personal relationship with somebody. And one more point that I'm going to put out there, I got to give a shout out to Jared, you know, for everything he's done and taken up on everything and exposing all of this in our group, Ian and the other Ian and Mike, Peter and Andrew, you know, and everybody else. If I missed anyone, sorry, but I got to give the biggest shout out, the biggest kudos to all of these guys, as we were the team that closed down Robert Land Academy. It was us, and we'd done it for all of our brethren, all of our brothers from that school, no matter what the years. We shut that place down to save children in the future because our politicians can't put anything in place to help these children in the future. And I just want to say that I've spoken to staff, former staff that were there, and former students, which from the 2025 year, which was closed down. The students were told not to go near us, that we are looking to harm them. We've never, ever, the alumni has never looked to harm any of our students. We love you guys, even in 2025. We love all of you. So we know what you went through. Some worse than other, but it doesn't change the fact that you went through hell. And we know this. We recognize this. We see you. We know this. Don't think you're ever alone because you have us. You're never alone. But what these students were told by the Board of Governors and the headmaster and everyone else was we are people that are looking to harm them, and that they were not to approach us. And this is why the erected fences, just for everybody who's watching this so you understand, every year leading up to 2025, all the way back from when I was going to that school, we were always invited to go on graduation day so that we can see future students. We can wish these boys well on their journeys in the future. We can congratulate them on graduating, wish them the best of luck. And in 2025, because of a result of over 167 lawsuits, now I heard the number is around $850 million in lawsuits total against them. Because of that, they spread lies to the students so they wouldn't come out. And when I talk to the boys of 2025, I see all of you. I know all of you, and I love all of you. You're all my brothers. And the guys that I spoke to, they told me straight up, they wanted to come out and speak to us so bad. But if they did, they knew what the consequences would be. And that speaks volumes. I spoke to former staff of Robert Land Academy. Again, I won't mention names, but I look up to you. I admire you. The ones that have spoken to me, you're good people. You're very good people. You're honorable people. And, one of the guys told me, they were told to get rid of us. Well, they couldn't do anything. We're on public property. You see them in the police show. The police said they're not doing nothing wrong. But they were being lied to also by the heads of the schools. And they were being told that we are there to harm children and for them to go get rid of us. There was guys, they were told me flat out. I told them, hell no, I'm not going out to use guys because you had your U-Haul van. Let me tell you what we had the U-Haul van for, because we were not able to look inside. So we got the van so we could sit up top and we could get our cinematographers, because there is a documentary coming out about this stuff and we wanted to document everything. And yeah, so what ended up happening was he told them basically, F you, not in those words, but I'm not going out there. And he told me flat out, I don't know, you guys had machine guns or whatever, and you're going to open up the back of the U-Haul and do me in. So this is the kind of cowardice. You know, this, I'm going to point this out. Robert Land Academy had values that they would instill in children and beat it into us, honor, labor, loyalty, courage, commitment. Those 5 values. Those pieces of garbage, that's the biggest cowardice thing that you can do, is say those lies to those students. Tim Hodak, I'm going to refer directly to you, you pile of garbage, because you know who I am. You're a real pile of garbage. And same with you, Doug Ford. You're another pile of fucking garbage, because you know me personally. Sam Oosterhoff, you're a big pile of fucking garbage, because you know me too. You know me personally, know me. I've always had respect for you as a human being, but as a politician, you're a pile of shit. And now that you won't do this, you're worse than a pile of shit, not a human nor a politician. You're all dishonorable pieces of garbage. But bottom line is, those are the type of lies that academy done to try to do these things to these kids, to spread fear and terror in them. Lawsuits aside, we still would have been there. It wouldn't have changed anything. We still would have wanted to speak to those students and wish them luck. They are our brothers, whether they like it or not. On that day, they were all alumni. They are all with us because they were not there any longer. And on that note, sorry for the technical difficulties. They were beyond all of our controls. I hope this spread a little bit of light and explanation. You can clearly see the differences between the years I was there and what it ended with. It never really changed. Very minor things changed, but the torture and the concentration camp that place was remained. Anyways, have a good night. Thanks everybody for watching. You did. Please remember, we don't take donations. We don't do anything like that. We just want knowledge out there. We want to spread the word and the truth of what has happened. And, if you find any value in this, as Ed says, please share it out. We got to make people aware, especially parents. International Academy in Fort Erie. Reach out to me, parents. I have your kids that have spoken to me of what's going on. Do not discount their complaints to you, because they are not fake. They're not false. They're the truth. And what Robert Land done was brainwash the parents not to believe us when we told them what was going on. You're seeing the results at Robert Land Academy, what's going on. There are 3 individuals at International Academy. That shit is going on. Wake up, please. Reach out to me. Anyways, have a good night, everybody. And if you find any value in this, please share it out. Share it out a lot. A lot of kids, anybody in private schools right now, reach out to me. I will come and I will assist you. If you're having big problems, you're being abused, reach out to me. If you can't get the word out to police, get the word out to me. I'll get it to police. I'll get it to Family Children's Services or CAS. I will get you help. I will show up personally, and I'll stand on that street in front of your school, you run to me, and I'll protect you until 911. I will dial until police show up. I will not let another child at a private school be harmed, not while I'm still breathing. Enough's enough. Ontario, push back on the PC party. Don't vote them in. I don't care who you vote for. Don't vote those monsters in. Have a good night, everyone.